Hey folks, I've got an update for you on the Zorki 4. Not quite ready to do a full-blown review on this thing. I'd like a little more experience with the camera before I do that. But I did run across a couple issues that I do want to talk about. And the main one concerns the operation of the shutter release button and a particular quirk of this camera that I have not seen on other cameras. So over here you've got the shutter release button right here, and then around it you've got a collar. Right? And the collar has a knurled surface there, and so does the button on top. Well, the collar I get. I understand why that has a knurled surface, because the collar serves a purpose. If you push the collar down and, excuse me, got to release the button first. You push the collar down and turn it clockwise. You've now disengaged the take-up spool and you're ready to rewind film. Okay, you see where the collar is in the down position now. If you turn it counterclockwise, again, push down, turn counterclockwise, the collar pops back up like so, and you are now ready to advance film, okay? But I wondered, why is it that the shutter speed button has a knurled surface on top? That doesn't make any sense. All it does is go up and down. Why would you do that? Well, it turns out there's a reason for that. If you push the, and this gave me a really tough time when I first got this camera because I didn't know, I thought it was broken. But if you push down on the shutter speed release button and turn clockwise, then the button rises like so, and it's now ready for regular operation. Okay, so you can see that I'm advancing the, well, turning the advance button, it's cocking the film, or cocking the shutter rather. You can see this turn, all right, and push the button, it's released. And again, and remember, on a Soviet camera, you're not, this does not show the actual shutter speed in use until after you cock the shutter. So you cock the shutter like so, and you can see this line moving, the indicator line or the index line moving. Okay, and like so. All right, all well and good. Well, what happens when you push the shutter release button in and turn it counterclockwise? Just a bit. Let's see. Now I'm going to turn this dial, and this isn't moving. In addition, I can turn this dial forever. There's no hard stop where I've advanced one frame, right? If I, again, push in, turn counterclockwise, turn clockwise, shutter release button pops back up. Now, as I turn, you can see this turning, and you can feel a hard stop right there. It's advanced, one frame. Release, and again, if I turn this counterclockwise, turn the knob, no reaction here, and no hard stop at all. So why is that there? What's the deal? So I posted a question about this to a couple of Facebook groups dealing with Soviet cameras, and one dealing with Zorkis in particular. And a very wise and kind gentleman, Andrei Khludev, I think. Andrei, if you're watching, I wish to thank you for your generous help and apologize for mispronouncing your last name. But it was explained to me that this function of the shutter release button is connected to the bulb shutter speed setting on the camera. So let's see, this is in, all right, that's in operation. There we go. So it's advance. Okay. So I've cocked the shutter, which means now I can change the shutter speeds. Remember, this is one of the first things they teach you in Soviet rangefinder school. Thou shalt not change shutter speed until after cocking the shutter. But you probably already know that. So now I'm going to lift the shutter speed dial and put the indicator mark over the B setting for bulb, because back in the old days, this setting was used in conjunction with flash bulbs. I think, I'm pretty sure that's why they call it bulb. So now it's on the B setting. Well, B means you can hold the shutter open as long as you want. Now on SLRs, it means the shutter is open for as long as you physically depress the shutter release button. On the Zorki, you can lock the shutter open by pressing the shutter release button and turning it counterclockwise. So I want to demonstrate that to you and show that to you. by, let's take the lens off. Let's see if we can get a look inside. It ain't gonna be easy because everything's black. So hopefully you can, you know, put this to the side because I don't want to poke anything. So I've got the dial set to B. So now if I open up, if I press the shutter, and I'm going to turn this counterclockwise, there. All right. So now the shutter is locked open, and you can see the shutter is locked open because if you look on the video, you can see that you can see the reflection of the pressure plate. That reflection you're seeing inside the camera is the pressure plate behind the shutter curtain, which presses the film into the correct position. So that's what you're seeing. If I release, that is by pushing down and turning clockwise, like so, I've turned clockwise, and now I release my finger, boom. The shutter is now closed. And I'm sure it's probably difficult to impossible to see a black cloth shutter in this video, but you can no longer see the reflection of the rear base plate. At least that should be fairly clear. Base plate, I mean pressure plate. So that's why the shutter release button on this camera is knurled, so that you can get some decent purchase with your finger in order to twist it for operation of the B shutter speed. That's interesting to know, and I had not thought about that. The problem is, if that happens while you're shooting, it can really mess you up. The other day I was just doing some street shots, and I advanced, and I think what happened is that because I was using the leather case, I think when I was replacing the cover on the camera, it may have brushed up against this or put some pressure on this because it was in my knapsack, and I was trying to get the case, cover the camera back up and put it in my knapsack, and there were people around, and it was kind of a busy intersection, and I accidentally engaged the shutter lockout button, like so, or the bulb, lock open button or function, if you prefer, if you will. And so what happened was, I went to take a picture, and I was trying to cock the shutter, or I was going to cock the shutter first, because I don't leave the shutter cocked. I cock the shutter before I take a picture, not after. So I was trying to cock the shutter. I'm sitting there going, wonder what's going on. This thing went, oh crap. And I realized, and so I repositioned the shutter release dial correctly until finally okay, now it catches. Right now it's working. But what happens when you do that is this. Okay, so here's what you get. Here are the negatives that I developed earlier today, and you can see I got about a 3-frame gap. It's not about it's exactly a 3-frame gap right here, where I was advancing the this dial while the shutter release button was not in the proper position, and so what happens is it was just going through the film. And by the time, and it took 3 frames before I realized what was happening and corrected the problem. But by that time, I'd lost the 3 frames. So that's simply something to be aware of. Your camera is not broken if you've encountered this problem. It has a feature that is not found on any other camera that I have owned. But then again, I'm not a rangefinder expert. I dabble in rangefinders, but SLRs are my usual go-to. And SLRs most certainly don't do that. Perhaps there's some other rangefinders that do, but this is the first time I've encountered that issue. So I just wanted to make a video about that, because this is an issue which gave me a lot of problems, and I found extremely frustrating. And when you find a very, very frustrating problem that has a very, very simple solution, that's something you should probably tell people about. So that's why I'm making the video. So if you've had one of these cameras, or if you have one of these cameras and you're trying to figure out how to use it, and you've encountered this difficulty, you're not doing anything wrong, and your camera's not broken. You just need to make sure to put this in the correct position. The problem that I had is that after when you rewind the film, right after you've taken your shots and you rewind the film, you're going to press this down and count down and clockwise, right? To rewind the film, you can rewind your film and then you load film again. And so now I want to put it in a position to advance film. So I'm going to push it down and counterclockwise. Well, the problem is when you push it down and counterclockwise, oftentimes you can accidentally depress the shutter release button as well while you're turning the collar. And so you just need to be aware of that and make sure that the shutter release button is in its proper position before you start advancing film. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and if so, please like and subscribe and whatnot, and check out the links below, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.